How disappointed were you by this number?
You know, we tend to not overreact to any one individual month. And we saw, last month in July, the number came in several hundred thousand above estimate. This month came down a bit below estimate. But if you look at the trend, over the last 3 months, we've created about 750,000 jobs a month. You saw the unemployment rate come down by 0.2 with stable labor force participation, which means more people entering the labor market. And so, what we see in this is continued steady job growth, historic job growth in a labor market and an economy that is fundamentally different than back at the beginning of the year or the end of last year. So even with the headwind of Delta, which we know and we can see in these numbers, we have an economy that's able to continue generating durable job growth. And so we think that that's a positive sign, and one that suggests that we just have to keep at this, obviously work to get more people vaccinated and continue the task of the economic strategy we have in front of the Congress.
You mentioned Delta there. Do you think this was more of a demand for labor issue as opposed to a supply of labor issue?
Well, again, we wouldn't make too much out of any 1 month's report, and I'll commit to that, whether the numbers are above expectation or below expectation. Certainly, you saw some indications in leisure and hospitality and restaurants that have been adding several 100,000 jobs each month. That slowed down this month. But at the same time, you saw, for example, solid gains in manufacturing employment in August as well. And so, again, looking back at the trend, I think what we see is an economy, a labor market that is healing, and record number of job openings, as was just pointed out. And so a lot of reason to believe that we can continue momentum in the labor market going forward.
What is the administration's current belief about the sort of dislocation of joblessness in this country, and that it has impacted those lower income workers more than it has the white collar workers that are able to work from home?
Well, there's no question that the pandemic and this recovery have exacerbated some really important trends. The work from home versus those who need to work in the office, the distinction by gender and by race. It's harder for parents and for women in an environment where you have less stable child care and school arrangements. That's one of the reasons why, again, we are in a different place, and it's important to note that the investments that we've made in giving states money to invest in schools, in child care facilities, the fact that we are going to have schools open over the course of this fall, more child care options, those investments are incredibly necessary, and necessary for us to continue to make it easier for parents, many of them women, to get into the labor force in ways that they want to. And we've also got to keep working at delivering relief like the child tax credit that is providing relief, particularly to workers in the bottom half of the income distribution, and helping to reduce child poverty in about half this year.
How worried are you about current supply chain pressures?
Well, we spent a lot of time thinking about this and a lot of time focused on it, trying to do what we can to relieve those bottlenecks. We announced about a week ago a port envoy who's going to spend a lot of his time out with the LA and Long Beach ports, trying to work through some of those issues. We announced a set of steps earlier this week to try to increase the supply of housing, which is a place where we have seen some of the bottlenecks hit. So we definitely are focused on what we can do to try to help relieve some of that pressure on semiconductors as well. We've got an important piece of legislation in front of the Congress that would invest $52 billion to try to build resilience in our domestic supply chain of semiconductors. So we're looking to try to do things in the immediate term, but also recognizing that some of this is what you get with big supply-demand imbalances, where companies and global players made some bets during the pandemic, and now we're having to unwind those, like in used cars and the rental car market. So it's definitely something we're paying a lot of attention to, trying to support and facilitate solutions where we can.
Well, we may have trade imbalances when it comes to supply and demand of some of these items, but couldn't there also be labor imbalances? Perhaps we want to produce more chips here domestically, but are we going to be able to find the workers that want to work those jobs?
Well, I think one of the things that we're seeing, again, if you look through to the trend line, an average of 750,000 new jobs a month is a historic pace of job growth. 4 million, over 4 million jobs in the last 7 months. Again, historic in nature for this period during an economic recovery. So I think we're seeing that jobs are coming back, and where employers are paying wages and providing attractive job opportunities, people are going back into those jobs. And at the same time, we definitely have issues around making sure that American workers have the skills that they need to compete for those jobs. And that's one of the things that we need to make real investment in, for example, making community college and accreditation programs accessible for all Americans. That's part of what we're working on with Congress right now.